Hello and welcome to Amethyst Star Crafting. My name is Jane Ormark and I'm a UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. And today I thought we would have some fun using some colours you probably wouldn't put together. So we're using Tahitian Tide and Old Olive, and we're going to be stamping with Cajun Craze. Again, giving that slightly autumnal feel, but still the in-between one. We're using Grassy Grove because I want to use this stamp, I think, for the trees, and maybe a sentiment that's quite good. But we're going to be using some techniques. So the first thing I've done is, let me just get the pieces together so you can see, because it's relatively straightforward. You have a card base. Doesn't matter what size it is, if you're doing larger, smaller, fatter, thinner, really doesn't matter. Whatever your card base is, you're going to fold one of the pieces back on themselves, and then you're just going to bone folder it down. So basically you have what's called a Z-fold card, but that's what we're working with. Then you take your piece of cardstock and you're going to measure down 1/4 inch. So for me on this one, it measures 1 3/4 by 5 1/4, because that's the card size I've got. And equally exactly the same for the other piece, and that's going to fit on there. And then I've cut the largest scalloped circle, and I've cut the next circle down. Again, excuse me, doesn't really matter sizes. Do what sizes you want. If you haven't got circles, use squares. Doesn't really matter. All we're looking at is the background amount for this and these two pieces. And if you've noticed, it's all in white, because this is using your stash and then colouring it in yourself and doing some fun patterns and ideas, rather than using designer series paper. So it's a bit of a frugal one, but it's fun as well. So we're going to use the Tahitian Tide first, and this is called, you can either do it as a stamp or a swipe, so it doesn't really matter one way or the other. I'm going to do it as a stamp, I think, because I think it'll work easier. So we're just going to stamp with the ink pad and then stamp with the ink pad. And again, it doesn't really matter how much goes on there, how much doesn't. This is quite a juicy one, so we can put it in like that. And because this is our base, we're going to do exactly the same thing with that, and hopefully it's not going to come out all the time. Now, if you want a little bit more sort of colour on there for it to cover over, just do a bit of a sort of a swipe on it. So swiping is, you're literally taking your ink pad and you're swiping it down so that you've got the whole of the cardstock covered. Does get a little inky. You can obviously clean your hands off afterwards. And again, I'm just adding a little bit more on here. Like that. So you've got all of those covered. That's the Tahitian Tide. Oh, I've missed a little piece off of this. I have my finger on there, so I haven't got that little bit on. So let's just do that in there. Okay, now we're going to add some Old Olive, because that's going to darken it down a bit, but we're not going to be doing it all over on this one. We're just going to be doing a little bit of little bits in different areas. So this is where it's quite good to do just a bit of a swipe on there, and I'm just taking the edge of it and just really sort of playing around with some patterns and some colours. If you just take the side of the pad, you can just turn it round, and I'm just sort of crossing over with a few. There's no real rhyme or reason to this. It's just creating some fun patterns which gives you a background without having to worry about things too much on there. Okay, so I've got all of that in there. Now what I'm going to do, because I want to take some more colours, is I've got a fan brush. You don't have to have a fan brush, but fan brushes are quite good because you get that that really nice sort of speckle. And what I'm doing is I'm literally just tapping it, quite a lot of water, just over on the top. And on this one, lots of sort of splatters and bits on here. So you can see really almost so that it's raining down on it quite a lot. Leave it just for a few seconds on there. So you can see I'm really quite covering it because I want the pattern to be quite extensive on here. If you haven't got one, you can use your fingers, you can splatter it with, you can use anything you want. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it with some kitchen roll. And I'm going to tap it and get as much colour as I can off of that so that you've got these speckledy pieces of water and stuff coming through. Now we can get a little bit more, I think, on here. And it's warping a little bit because, as I say, I'm using quite a bit of water on here, but that's what I want. I want to have this really sort of variegated look coming through. And taking that so that it comes really nicely and you've got that different sort of pattern and things. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to take my ink gun and let me just grab it. Now there are other ways of doing this and we might try all sorts of different ones. I've done lots over the years. You can use salt, you can use all sorts of things. Water is a very simple and easy one to do. And you just literally just get a different sort of look to it. So I need to just dry this off for a second. So I'm just going to put my heat gun on and just give it a quick blast. So excuse the noise, but you'll be able to see the white bits coming through quite nicely. So make sure that that's drying out a bit. So you can say you can speed this bit up if you want to. I'm just wanting to just dry it out because we're going to be doing some stamping on top of it, but it gives a nice sort of background which is quite fun. And as I say, you've got lots of texture and patterns coming in on this, which is going to look really rather fun, I think. Okay, I think that should be about right. So an easy way to dry things off, I would normally just sit and wait if I'm not in a hurry, but if you are, just dry it off with a heat gun. So we can then, if we then put these on here, you can see you've got, I'll put that just in on there for now, because we're going to do some other things with it, but put that in on there. And you've got as if you've used some nice designer series paper, but you've created it all yourself. Okay, so we want to just take it up just one more step. So I'm just folding these a little bit flatter, taking that card on there. And this is where I'm going to use the Cajun Craze. It's quite dark, but I really rather like the look of it. So I want to do these trees because I think having the trees going across here will look quite nice. And I'm not sure whether I want, I think I'm just going to use these trees because I don't want to make it too busy. If we make it too busy, it will then starting to look a little bit over the top, whereas I think this will be okay. I'm just hoping that that block will work, which I think it will. I'm just taking my fan brush out so it's not running in there, and I'm using the same piece of paper on here. But I'm just going to have a look and see. Let's stamp it on here. Yes, that's going to look lovely. So what I want to do is to just put these in on here. way round, I think, on the other piece. So I'm doing one to the right and one to the left. Just in on there. Now I could just take it in so that it runs right the way across. That looks quite good. And I'm going to take the other one so that that runs across. And then this one's going to come this way. And that's going to come that way. Oh yes, I like that. That's working quite well, isn't it? So we need to have some on here as well. These obviously aren't going to show as much, so it doesn't really matter that they're... I'm just going to put some at the top and down at the bottom, like that. So we've just got that piece covered. I'm just going to take another bit just in on there. Okay, so that's... and you can see how those colours suddenly... you're thinking, oh, I wasn't sure about those colours. And I know a few of you are going to be standing there going like, I wasn't sure about that. But put the that really lovely Cajun Craze in, and it just works, doesn't it? Okay, so we can put these in on here now. So we've got one piece which is going to be, let me get my glue. My glue in on here. So we're going to take this in, and I love creating my own backgrounds. I think it is, again, we are, and I know that, you know, I'm not the only one. I think all of us are really worried this year about what's happening with energy bills and things. They are really getting quite scary. You know, things are doubling, and you know, our money coming in isn't doubling, but suddenly we've got to find twice as much as we did before. And yes, it's coming in on for people in the UK from October the 1st. Our energy bills, so that's our gas and our electric, which is our central heating and our lighting and our food, and everything is doubling. Our petrol prices, you know, fuel at the pumps, everything is doubling, which, you know, yes, there's nothing we can do about it, so there's no point in getting really, you know, sad and upset. But it means that we have to be a little bit more careful and a little bit more frugal. So I'm trying to show you ways where you can look at that. That's going to be absolutely lovely. Ways that you can use what you've got and create fun things. So this one, we're going to put this in on top over here. And all I want is... I think all I want is a good sentiment. So we'll have the sometimes you need to know that someone really cares, because I rather like that. I don't think I've even used that one. So we'll take that one out, which you can probably can't see. I'm always doing things slightly off of camera, but I think we're all right on this. So let's take this one off. I think that's at the bottom. So let's try and get that reasonably straight. We're going to put this in on the center, and it's going to be coming in the Cajun Craze. I'm just going to use this to make sure that it's... ah, see, it's upside down. Good job I checked. If you're worried about words, and these are sort of quite... different sort of words. I'm just going to put it up a little bit because I want to have, so that's going there. Sometimes you need to know that someone really cares. I really like that. That's beautiful. And then I'm going to put the really rather lovely deer just in on the bottom. So we've got this, and again, have I used him? I don't think I've used him either. So it just shows, isn't it, the stamp sets. I've used the dies with this quite a lot, but I haven't used this one. So, and I think he's a bit of a silhouette. So we'll have a look and see what he's going to be like. I want to do him in the Cajun Craze. And he's solid, so I've got to be a bit careful that he doesn't come out very blobby because it's the first time of using it. Let's, oh no, that's just the definition, isn't it? Beautiful. Like that. Okay, so he's going to come in just in on the bottom here. Like that, which is rather lovely. So again, this would work for a masculine card as well as for a everyday card to send to one of our girlfriends. I think that that would work. So if we put this in on here, now I'm just looking to see whether the white's going to be too stark and whether I need to just tone it down a little bit with some blue. I think I do. It needs just a little bit of something round the side. So I've stamped it first, which is good. Need to make sure that it's dried. It's not quite dried yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sponge dauber, and I just want a little bit of the Tahitian Tide round the side to just blend it in a bit. So let's get my Tahitian Tide out. Because that's just too stark. It needs just something round the edges. And as I say, I have to be careful because Tahitian Tide is quite a, or the Cajun Craze is quite a dark colour, and what I don't want is for it to, you can still see it's still got a little bit of drying to do. So I'm just going to take this round the side first of all, just being a bit cautious around the bits that haven't dried yet, I don't want to have a muddy background. So I'm doing it round on the side because I want that bit quite dark. Like that. And then I'm going to bring it in a bit. So I'm just going to bring it in just a bit. I don't want to smudge it. Again, it's the sort of thing that, you know, if you're using a dark colour that you know is like to smudge, just wait a little bit for it to have started to dry completely, because when you've got really dark colours, they do take a little while. But that's perfect now. That's just given it just a little bit of a blend. So I need to make sure my trees are straight. This is going to be glued on here. Quite a reasonable amount of glue because we used our heat gun to dry it. Make sure the trees are straight. And I'm just going to, I was going to turn it upside down. I think I will, very dead straight, and smooth it in just to make sure that it's not smudged. That's fine. Okay, so now we've got to put this onto our Z fold. Let me take all this rubbishy bits out of here that we've used, because we don't need to use that anymore. I've just got a bit of water on there. So pop this over here. Now this is going to come in like this on here, and we only want it to be glued just halfway down. So we're going to take it on, and we know it's that side, so we just want to have a little bit of wet glue. You can put dimensionals if you want, but I just want this like this, and then it's going to come in on there like that. Make sure that that again is smoothed down. I'm going to turn it over because again I don't want to get too much Cajun Craze everywhere. Turn it back again, and there we've got a lovely Z-fold card, plenty of room for writing your message inside. Stands up, so you've got it to stand up. And isn't that a lovely background to use? Using colours that you probably wouldn't have thought that would go together, but actually look really good. And all you've done is started with a piece of white cardstock and just done it all literally with inks. So we used Tahitian Tide, Old Olive, and Cajun Craze. And the stamp set was Grassy Grove, and I always put a link down to my shop below, and you can buy all the products over there. So I hope you enjoyed it. As always, please stay safe and well, please be kind, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye bye.